Donald Trump is going to win in Arizona, and he is going to win in Georgia, and he's going to win in North Carolina. But is he going to win in Nevada? I don't know. I think he gets a very narrow victory in Nevada, maybe somewhere between 1 and 5 percentage points. But I think in the end, he will win. This will not be enough to win the election. This election will be decided in the Rust Belt, in the states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. Now, let me first address why the states that I mentioned are going to go for Donald Trump. And this is based not on public opinion polls, but on actual voting results. As per last election, 94% of all Democrats voted for Joe Biden, and about 94% of all Republicans voted for Donald Trump. So if you look at early voting in Arizona, you will see that Republicans have so far cast 42% of all votes, and Democrats have cast 33% of all votes. That's the astonishing margin of 9 percentage points. It will be very difficult for Democrats to make it up, even assuming that now ballots are being dropped that are Democratic in a normal legal way, being dropped off. According to Arizona law, they can no longer be mailed, but they can still be dropped off at designated drop-off locations. Democrats may make up some of this difference before the election day, but on election day, Republicans turn out in larger numbers nationwide and in Arizona than Democrats do. And also keep in mind that if you look at voter registration numbers, Republicans significantly outnumber Democrats in Arizona, 35.7% to 29%. So in my opinion, Arizona is not in play, and Arizona is not a swing state. And so if the media keeps calling it a swing state, that's, I don't know, maybe for drama, maybe they don't get just how big the margin is in early voting. Let's look at Nevada, where the election is much closer than that. So one of the things that we have been seeing in Nevada is the growth in all-party registration, because the population has been growing a lot. But Republican registration has been growing much faster than Democratic registration. And so as of November 1st, 2024, Democrats outnumber Republicans by 0.45%. And by November 5th, that may be just about even. More importantly, as far as the votes cast so far, this includes all mail-in ballots and all early votes, you can see that Republicans have an edge of about 5%, 39% to 34%. But if you looked at the figures more precisely, the margin is only 49.3%. If you go and you look at the Secretary of State website, you will see that it's actually somewhat smaller. It's not 5%, it's 4.3%. I expect this margin to narrow before Tuesday, November 5th, because again, ballots that will be arriving in the mail between right now and then will tilt more Democratic. Democrats vote by mail at significantly larger numbers. Still, we can see it in Nevada than Republicans. So this margin will narrow, but it will not narrow enough, I don't think, to be closed. And again, on election day, Republicans will somewhat outnumber Democrats, and again, assuming, which is the most reasonable assumption, that almost all Republicans will vote Republican and almost all Democrats will vote Democrat, Republicans will have a slight edge, provided the independent voters will not swing significantly one way or another. They swung somewhat for Joe Biden in the last election, where Biden won very narrowly. This time, there's no reason for them to swing significantly one way or another. If anything, we see that swing voters in Nevada tend to lean the way that the winner is going. So they go with the winds of time. They go with the winner. And so, if anything, Trump might have a slight edge among independents. So, this will be very close. And if I had to bet, like I said, I would say Trump is going to win in Nevada, but it's not guaranteed. If he wins Pennsylvania, he will not need Nevada. In Georgia, Republicans have cast more votes than Democrats by 3 percentage points in early votes. A huge percentage of registered voters have already voted in Georgia. And also, if you look at opinion polls, there's not a single opinion poll in weeks that shows Kamala Harris ahead in Georgia. Real Clear Politics average is 2.6% for Donald Trump. The only poll in recent weeks, and this is not even days, this is recent weeks, that has them tied is the Marist poll, which almost certainly is off because it's an outlier. It's an outlier not only in the state of Georgia, it's an outlier in other states where Marist took polls in recent days or weeks. So I think it's leaning slightly too much toward Kamala Harris. So I think Georgia will go for Donald Trump. If you look at North Carolina, early votes, I'm not sure about, but here you see that in recent weeks, there is not a single poll where she leads except in the CNN poll, which again is off. It's an outlier, has been an outlier. And in recent days, Donald Trump has a lead everywhere in Georgia. And this time, 3 days before the election in 2020, Biden was up 2.3 percentage points and barely won it. In 2016, Trump was up 1.8, which is pretty much exactly what it is today. And Trump won Georgia decisively in 2016. All right. So now if you look at Pennsylvania, which, like I said, is the deciding state, based on early vote, you might say, wow, Democrats are sweeping this. It's 57 to 33. That's a huge 24 percentage point lead. However, what you have to keep in mind is, unlike in Nevada, unlike in Arizona, and even unlike in Georgia, only a small percentage of all voters have so far voted in Pennsylvania. And that's 1.74 million votes. If you look at the total registered voters in Pennsylvania, the total number of registered voters is 8.86 million. Okay, so only a very, very small fraction of them have voted so far. And again, Republicans tend to outnumber Democrats significantly on election day. So Pennsylvania is not yet lost for Donald Trump. Now, if you were to look at other states like Michigan and especially Wisconsin, those are harder for Trump to win than Pennsylvania. And so in those states, Kamala Harris has the best chance. It is possible that just like last time around in 2020 and the time before in 2016, the polls actually underestimate Donald Trump. But we won't know this until after the election. And even if they somewhat underestimate him, it still doesn't mean that he is going to carry any one of the 3 Rust Belt states. It is actually quite possible that he's going to lose all 3, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Now, if you look at the overall popular vote, 0.3 percentage points, at this time in 2020, Biden was up by 7.8 in the poll average, and Clinton was up by 1.5. Now, Clinton ended up winning by 2.1. If you don't believe me, you can just click on it and see that the actual popular vote spread was 2.1, just as the final polling average was 3.2. And if you look at what happened in 2020 in terms of the overall popular vote, you can click on 2020 Joe Biden, and you can see that from 7.2, which was predicted spread in Real Clear Politics average, Comparing that to the final results of 4.5, we see that the overall average of the polls was off. It was off significantly uh, by about 2.7%. So, could Trump be underestimated by 2 or 3% in popular vote? Yes. But again, it would be possible for him to win the popular vote and still lose the Electoral College vote. You may ask, well, how is it exactly that one candidate is, winning the popular vote, like Trump, who lost popular vote both times, and yet losing the Electoral College vote? Well, the reason why this may be happening is because Republicans seem to be running up gigantic margins in states where they were expected to win uh, solidly, but not by these humongous margins. I'm talking about states like Florida and Texas. Before I show you this, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that as of right now, and this is Saturday night, so it's November 2nd, 2024, if you look at the overall early vote in the country by party, you're going to see that it's 40-40. All right. This is a good sign for Republicans because they trail in early voting. Like, if you look at the 2020 election, they trailed by approximately 14 percentage points, and now they're even. And what happened in 2020 was the overall partisan breakdown. Well, Democrats cast only 1 percentage point more of the total popular vote than Republicans. Democrats cast 37% of all votes, and Republicans cast 36% of all votes. And independent and third party voters cast the rest. So 36 plus 37 is what? 73. So 23% of the votes were cast by independents and third party voters. Now, this time around, they're even. And the question that no one can still answer is how much of that early Republican turnout is actually cannibalizing what would have been their turnout on election day. We won't know this until all the votes are counted. But now let me show you the huge margins that Republicans are running up in what used to be the purple state of Florida and what has been for the longest time the red state of Texas, which Democrats hope to move to the purple column and then eventually in the blue column. And we see that this is not happening. So let's start with Florida. If you look at early voting in Florida, Republicans are absolutely swamping Democrats, 45-33. And I don't want to sound like a broken record, but again, Republicans turn out in greater numbers on election day. What does this mean? This means we can expect this margin to widen even further. And already almost 7.5 million voters have voted in Florida. So it's pretty astonishing. Republicans are just rolling over Democrats in that state. Easy victory for Trump in Florida. Remember, this was a state that caused so much division in 2000 between Bush and Gore, and in 1876, which no one remembers anymore, but they should, between Rutherford Hayes and Samuel Tilden. And now let's go to Texas, and you will see that in Texas, 51-37, it's a huge margin. Take my word for it, I also looked up Oklahoma. Oklahoma has exactly the same margin, 51-37. Now, Texas is significant because, like I said, Democrats were hoping to turn it blue. And you might know that the capital, Austin, has a lot of younger liberal people. And also, in case you didn't know, people who have been leaving California since the year 2020, escaping Gavin Newsom and COVID and all that, the plurality of them came to Texas. More Californians came to Texas than to any other single state, more than to Florida, more than to Nevada, more than to Idaho. And of course, the trope is that all these Californians, they're going to change the demographic, partisan composition of the state. Well, it ain't happening in Texas, because in Texas, Republicans are absolutely sweeping the Democrats. I didn't expect to see this. I didn't expect 51 to 37 in early vote. Just as in Florida, they're leading by 12%. This is even greater, 14%. But what about Idaho? A much smaller state. But still, a lot of Californians came to Idaho. Did the needle move? Do we see that Idaho is kind of becoming purple, maybe a little bit competitive? Not a chance in heck. Look at the early votes that are being returned. 64% are Republican, 15% are Democrat. This is not close, right? So, and of course, Arizona is another state where many Californians came, not just since 2020, but for many, many years now. And Arizona was a purple state during last election, and it's not going to be this time, even though the media pretends that it is. Doesn't look that way at all. So this is how come Donald Trump can run up popular vote margins and win all of these states by these large margins, and yet drop all three Rust Belts and lose the election. Which would be ironic, because he lost popular vote by more than 2 million votes in 2016, and yet won the election, and decisively so, in the Electoral College, because he swept the Rust Belt. And then, of course, he lost the Rust Belt, except for Ohio. And, of course, Ohio is secure this time around. It's not in play. Trump is easily going to win in Ohio. But Pennsylvania is going to be a huge struggle for him. And Michigan and Wisconsin are going to be an even bigger struggle. The only thing is that the polls, again, are wrong, if they're wrong. And I just don't think so. I think they may be off. Some polls may be off. But overall, Michigan and Wisconsin are probably pretty fair, pretty even, with Harris having a slight advantage. In Pennsylvania, Trump having a slight advantage. So therefore, my final prediction is Trump has a 55% chance of winning Pennsylvania, and therefore 55% chance of winning this election. Some may say that New Hampshire and Virginia are in play. No, they're not. Harris is going to win New Hampshire and Virginia, but if New Hampshire is close, and it may be, watch New Hampshire on election night starting at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 Pacific, when the polls in that state close. So if New Hampshire's vote is close, like within 1 or 2 percentage points, that suggests that Trump is doing well overall, and this suggests that he is likely going to take Pennsylvania and win the election. Thank you.